Hi, this is Gareth Jones here from Paris Technologies, and today I want to show you how we can combine 4 different technologies to make one awesome FP&A tool for you. All right, let's jump right in. So today I want to show you 4 technologies. I've got a Microsoft SQL Data Warehouse. I've got an OLAP engine called Olation. I've got Excel, and I've got Power BI. All right, what are we trying to show you today? Well, a very simple accounting problem. I've got sales, I've got cost of sales, gross profit, and gross profit percent for the first quarter. So Q1 is going to be a sum, the gross profit is a subtraction, and the gross profit percent is a division. Easy to do in Excel until I get multiple versions, actual budget, forecast, plan, over multiple years for multiple regions over multiple products. Then even this simple calculation starts to get overwhelming. How do we do it with an OLAP engine? We're going to create the sides of a cube called dimensions, month, account, region, product, version. Let's have a look what they look like if I get into the tool itself. Take some default settings, very simple list of members, Jan, February, March, Q1, and then we define that calculation Q1 as the sum of Jan, February, March. Let's have a look at account. And we've got sales, cost of sales, gross profit, and this time we've defined gross profit as sales minus cost of sales. A very simple idea. All right, and then we put them together in a cube, and we can then manipulate that data, visualize that data in Excel. Let's turn to Excel, and let's start with a blank workbook. When you install the product, you get a new element to your Excel ribbon called Power Excel. You still have all the rest of Excel's functionality. If you have a look at this particular Excel, you can see it's got all my own personal shortcuts. Personal to me, this is genuine Excel. What we're going to do though is we're going to connect Excel now to the centralized database. Very simple syntax. It's a URL, so it's just the IP address of the server. And at the end of it, so I've got a port number, and that's that little hole in the firewall that's going to allow us to write some rules over it that gives us the security we want. How to get the data in? All we need to do is go to the new slice button. And you'll recognize this, the look of the sidebar, because by design, we made it look like Excel's pivot table sidebar. It has a very similar functionality. You can move things from the rows and columns by just left clicking and dragging, and you can have as many as you like stacked on rows and columns, no problem at all. For this demonstration though, let's just get back to what we were expecting, which is the month on the columns and the accounts in the rows. Now, if I double left click on anything, I get a filtering option, and the wizard syntax is whatever's on the left is what I could select, and whatever's on the right is what I have selected. And all I got to do is move from left to right, and I can just pick up and drag, or I can use some of the shortcuts that are here. And then all we need to do is insert it into Excel. Now once it's inserted into Excel, the data is visualized here, but the data doesn't live here. In fact, I can delete this data, and I can just ask for it back, and it's going to bounce back from the central database. The filtering syntax is still there, double left click, and I've got my filter box up here. Let's have a look though at the formula. Here Q1, and you can see it's not a formula now, it's a data point. The calculation's happening in the cloud or centrally, but you can see it's correct. The subtraction's working, and the division's working. So everything's working perfectly. But what's really nice about it now is it's governed. If someone tries to change it, it won't let them, and it'll just bounce back. Someone tries to do something like this, which I've seen many times. It won't let them, and it's just going to bounce back. All right. But if I want to change the data where I'm allowed by design, that's going to work. I change the data here. It's updating. Now, I've got one that I've pre-prepared, and you'll notice that I've really over-engineered this using Excel's slicer functionality and a lot of colors. And that's just to show you that everything that you would like to do or normally can do in Excel, you can still do. The only difference now is you have access to the central data and these centralized calculations. So you've really empowered yourself. Okay, let's tile these two up for you. Move this one to the left. Put this one on the right. And what you'll notice is that although they look completely different, the data is the same. They're both pointing at the same centralized database, and they're both looking at the same slice intersection. So let's try change some of this data. And you'll notice that it updates on this side and it updates on that side. And what's happening is when I type this information in, it's going all the way back through Olation to the SQL data warehouse, and then the calculations are being triggered. So one of these could be in Canada, one of these could be in Australia, and we can be collaborating together in real time. Let's have a look at that in what's happening in the back end. So let's make a change here that we can, well, let's start by showing you what is actually there. So here's a little snippet from the database, and you're seeing the 900, 800, 850 for the sales line. And let's come back here and let's change one of these to be a very obvious number. And as I calculate that, and it's updated all of these calculations, if I go back in here and ask for it over here, you can see the data is being there. So the data is being stored in a data warehouse. It can have proper enterprise level backups. You can have replication, and you can be very comfortable with your data. And when you think about what you very often do now in terms of budgeting and forecasting, where it all lives in Excel, lives in a certain folder, which may get deleted, may get moved, this is like a major improvement. But we're not really going to wrestle over these two data points like this. What we want to do is we want one person to be completing Florida's budget, another person Texas budget, and then we want our boss potentially to be looking at some kind of executive view, and he may be looking at it like this, and he's waiting for us to finish our work, and he's going to be able to look at an overall picture. But although this looks really nice, it's all built on the same idea. So if I show you where this data comes from, it's all built off these little slices that we've made, and each one has a graph on top of it. So very, very simple. Let's just show you that they're linked up by manipulating some of this data. So let's put in a really big number. And let's have a look at this update here. Data goes back to the data warehouse, comes through to the graphs, and updates those graphs for us. So nice and centralized. In addition, we could be looking at the data in Power BI, and it should be exactly the same data. Goes and gets the data from the data warehouse, does the calculations in Olation, and brings it through here. All of it tied up and equal. So it's really giving you this great idea that you're getting one sense of the truth. But in addition to that, if someone asks you a question, you do have this ability to go back and look at the drill through. So let's try. I'm just going to double left click on this. It brings up this drill through, and I'm saying go all the way back to the relational database and bring back the top 1,000 rows. And here you might notice that I have some additional data. Maybe I've got invoice numbers and things like that. So really a lot of functionality given to you in Excel that allows you to do a lot and pushing all the data all the way back to the database. Okay, thank you.